Good morning, YouTube. I'm recording a short video titled Who Are They? Now, I got a little bit of critical feedback from one of my streams where a friend who I think generally understands a lot of the things that I'm saying said to me that sometimes I'm making these difficult to understand references to they. So, who's they? So I've created this brief presentation to explain how who they is a very important and I believe to be intentionally ambiguous type of thing. So let's dive right into it. So, talking about stuff, we are often given references like it is said that such and such, studies show that such and such, or experts agree that such and such. So just going around the internet researching some topic, you'll probably come across lots of statements of this type. And likewise, just talking to people, let's suppose you have a friend that read something, then your friend might say like, well, didn't scientists find, or isn't it known that, or yeah, it's true that, and so on and so forth. Essentially here, though, how we know that, who is saying that, all of these things, this is all mystery they. Who is they? And then I gave some examples here about maybe another type of person. So likewise, from the tinfoil hat side, your friendly neighborhood conspiracy theorists, contrast that with a coincidence theorist, might say something like, they want to put 5G everywhere, they've been developing technology for decades, or even they're turning the frogs gay. You could fact check that. It's more like they're becoming hermaphroditic, but we'll leave that question aside. So instead, let us look at this question of who are they? So in my notes here, I say, roughly speaking, the anonymous parties in both groups, so we have a with the establishment kind of citing scientists, and then here a person who's saying establishment doing all these bad things. The anonymous parties in both groups above, more often than not, does not represent any one named individual. And this is because of the structure, the nature of the system that us modern people live in. So oftentimes things are said, facts are reported, however you want to talk about speech announcements through convoluted spaghetti code processes. So every which way this person said based on this citation, based on this and this study, and so on and so forth. And very often technical jargon is being used. So I'll just give an example, like in 2020 through 2021, talking about health and sickness, we've all been introduced with a lot of new terms. Like I've never heard of a spike protein before. Yet now everybody at least has heard this term, but most of us, we don't fall under the expert category of this particular thing. So we're all plebeians who aren't allowed to talk about it. Okay, so my analysis here is saying that, yes, oftentimes just the way things are structured, there is this nameless, faceless they. So someone might reply to that and say, well, don't we have people that represent these organizations? For example, we have Mark Zuckerberg of formerly Facebook, now Meta, and of course Dr. Fauci. We'll give him a doctor here, who is in charge of lots of health stuff in the United States. They're the kind of public faces of these. Now, these people, they're acting within a capacity, a position, but they themselves are not the same as the they. So here I wrote a little paragraph which I'll read. Consider how you might debunk a statement like Mark Zuckerberg wants to enslave us in a virtual reality gulag. Well, Zuckerberg might be developing technology that might enable such a thing, just as DARPA might be making robots that could be used to patrol streets in a state under martial law. But it would be unfair to presume to be able to read Zuckerberg's thoughts here. We can't know what's going on inside him. we can refer to impersonal press releases and official statements, but here the debunking party may reply that we are just misreading some statement. So, what's going on here? My summary: recommendations made by corporations, governments, many NGOs, think tanks, and the like are not personal by design. We can speak of something they said, but we really can't pin responsibility on anyone. If Zuckerberg contradicts himself, Meta can attribute this error to him, meaning Zuckerberg. The blame is shifted to individuals when necessary. But who takes responsibility for the overall direction of some program? So you might say, well, aren't CEOs of companies? Maybe they're the people that are responsible. But even so, we see, CEOs are not the same as they either. So if we're talking about Twitter is promoting this, and Twitter, Facebook, all these other big tech companies, we kind of say like they are creating addicting technology, something like that. This does not mean that Jack Dorsey is, right? Because even so, we see like yesterday, Jack Dorsey of Twitter stepped down. So you have positions, and then even the people, the public faces of those things, we can't just point to them and say, well, by they we mean like Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg and so on and so forth, because even they are not the same as the they. So here I wrote a little thing, so it makes sense why people say things like they're really promoting electric vehicles. Who are they? Elon Musk specifically hasn't told me to buy a Tesla, but it's clear that lots of people are working on developing EVs and the infrastructure to support them. So clearly you could find lots of articles and all sorts of things that are promoting EVs, but who is promoting it? Who are the people? Well, I don't know what to say besides like they, and maybe you could name some publications, some parties. Like there's a lot of stories promoting electric vehicles on, say, Hacker News or CNN or Wired Magazine or something. But when you have a lot of different parties saying the same thing, how do you talk about that? How do you refer to that? So as a convenience measure, I think a lot of times people use words like they, because by design it's really hard to pin this down on individuals or even individual parties, because of course a publication website or something, they could change the website, they could delete articles, so everything's a moving target. So they is intentionally this amorphous, difficult to talk about thing, and that's why we use a word that is equally wide capturing to often talk about stuff. All right, some more notes. So why is this they useful? One of the reasons is when you have nameless, faceless entities that could just say stuff, you have a mechanism to give advice with no accountability. So, for example, they might tell you, you shouldn't have children to save the planet. They might tell you, you should live in a pod and eat bugs, and so on and so forth. So they are telling you to do all sorts of stuff. And if something goes wrong, so for example, they gave you advice and it turns out that was terrible advice, and now you're miserable and anxious every day. They tell you to do something, you get injured. Who is responsible? Who do you say, they told me to do that and I accepted what they said? Really, there's no responsibility to pass around for a lot of stuff, except for you as an individual who decided to internalize a message given by this big impersonal they. So a couple more things. I think giving advice on something, if someone asks, is typically okay. For example, asking a friend who works as a car mechanic about recommendations of what type of service you should get, that would be a very normal thing to do. But what we're seeing all around is they are giving all sorts of unsolicited advice persistently on a handful of different issues. Another thing to look at is, do the people who are giving you recommendations on how to live your life, for example, embracing technologies like smartphones, seem to be improving their own lives or the lives of the people around them, their friends and family, by their own recommendations? You could discern for yourself and look at the people that are the figureheads that are promoting these things and say, do I want to be like them? Or do they just get paid a lot of money? And so I might do what they say to try to get a little bit of that, but otherwise I wouldn't like to be like them. Right. On the other hand, a person who takes their own advice and wants to help will gladly share the beneficial things they know with others, but will persist in doing what they do regardless of whether they are well received by others. So, for example, if you know a good diet, you're following a diet that's very helpful for you and it makes you feel very healthy. You have a lot of energy every day. Surely such a person would happily share what they know with others, probably. But even if nobody listened, they already know that the program they follow, their recommendation is useful to them. So somebody who really cares about their own health, for instance, would continue what they're doing regardless of what other people thought or said, because they already get the reward for what they do. Okay. On the other hand, one mark of a no good recommendation is that people peddling such and such solution do not themselves take their own poison. Consider, for instance, how tech elites might make schools for their own kids. So I think Elon Musk, among others, did that. Or not give their kids technology like iPhones or iPads, which I've heard Steve Jobs did. Instead, they might buy remote islands and fly private jets to get away from the technological societies that they've created. So look, impersonal they'll tell you to do all sorts of things or receive all sorts of messages, and you can't really pin down on who the specific people are. There's no responsibility. It's just deferral, shift blame, point the other way. And then you look at the people who benefit financially, or in terms of money, however you want to say that, in terms of these things, then what exactly do they do at the end of the day with the profits they've extracted from what they do? And a lot of the times it seems like they will basically bug out. They'll go away from the very things, the very societies they've created. For example, they might make everybody take a medical treatment, but they themselves, they're comfortable enough, they have enough money, they don't have to worry about their employer saying this or that. Then, who knows what they're doing? It's not clear. Okay, another point, kind of explaining why using they and stuff like this, it's not just sloppy, you're rambling and not making any sense. Rather, there's reasons why people might speak in this way. And instead of saying, oh yeah, you don't have a source, you don't know what you're talking about, instead, just take a moment, listen to people, and you might be surprised what you could learn. So, for acting in the world, it often doesn't matter who they are. So I'll offer an example. Consider trading stocks. You don't need to know who is buying and selling stocks in order to buy and sell stocks. Same with cryptocurrencies. This is part of the point of these things. It's that they're these. It's not like you have to meet a person, barter, have a special relationship with them. You could say stocks and stuff, they're democratic in the sense that like everybody has the same rights to participate in this system. And so do trading bots and corporate entities and all these things. That's another issue. But the point is, if you're just talking about they who are buying and selling, oftentimes it doesn't matter who's buying and selling. If you're just buying and selling, they are doing the thing, and then you're going to exploit the changes of the prices and stuff in order to take a profit. So something like they are promoting EVs, electric vehicles, I don't think that's useless, because if in the press, different places, that EV positive signal is being broadcast rapidly, then it might make sense for you to say like, okay, it's being showed Apple is developing a cool EV technology, so I'm going to buy more Apple stock because it seems like they're going to take this story and run with it, and public perception will be, oh, this is hot, so then the Apple stock price will go up. So I'm not giving financial advice here or telling you this is how you should trade stocks, but it's a way that I've traded stocks in a similar way successfully. So that's to say, a signal like they're promoting EVs. It's not just like a hand wavy throw out statement. There are actions you could take based on reading the zeitgeist, the spirit of the times. Okay, so a similar thing, so not just the word they, I think they, it kind of triggers people, for lack of a better word, sometimes because it sounds kind of accusatory. Like, you might say, like, oh, you're just blaming all your problems on them or something. Somebody might come up with a statement like that and be on the guard against the use of they. But I wanted to show more, this is a more general communicative phenomenon, how you might have just some word or some phrase that points to something, a demonstrative something. So here I made up an example, California dialogue, demonstrating, is this a thing? So dude A, dude, have you dipped french fries in a milkshake before? Is that like a thing? Yeah, I saw it. XYZ influencer doing it, and my friend tried it too, and it was like actually really good. Ooh. Okay, so funny California dialogue, but that's to say, what do you mean by is something a thing? Like one way to express that in terms of they would be that if they are talking about some activity or some action, then that makes it a thing. So a thing is what they have talked about. So a lot of fuzziness here. This is advanced English seminar. All right. So conclusion: they is hard to define by design. The trouble of recognizing who they is by design. By detaching decision making, advice giving, and other messaging from individual people, or allowing figureheads like Zuckerberg to take heat while allowing organizations to persist in what they're doing. This is one technique that is used to put out big plans with which transform society. So, who are they? I hope this video was informative and unpacking a little bit how we talk, how discourse is in the media, understanding what's going on, so that when you recognize these patterns, you could more clearly see what is being said, and also understand when it's not clear who is saying what. Understanding that rather than just saying, oh yeah, I heard somewhere that this is true, therefore I'll just go with it. You know, there's that old saying, you can't believe everything you read or everything you hear on the internet. I think that that of course is good advice, and that we should be prudent about who is saying what, and not just accept everything that we're being told. Okay, thank you for watching the stream. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, do all that YouTube stuff, and I will see you all next time.